everyone. Today, I want to talk about an emergent superpathogen, another one of these dangerous bacteria that have evolved resistance to the drugs that we use to treat them. This most recent news comes from Pakistan, with data and figures coming from the National Institute of Health in Islamabad. They report that a strain of multi-drug resistant typhoid had infected, quote, at least 850 people in 14 districts since 2016, unquote. On a global scale, about 21 million people are infected with typhoid a year, and of these people, more than 160,000 die. Now this might sound like a lot of death, and it is, that's a lot of people. But compared to the number of people who get infected, this is a mortality rate that's orders of magnitude better than it was in the era before antibiotics, because we use antibiotics to treat typhoid today. Unfortunately, as far as typhoid is concerned, this era of antibiotics could be coming to an end. Typhoid fever is caused by the bacteria Salmonella enterica cerevisiae typhi, which is easily and rapidly spread, typically through contaminated food or water where it can get into the body through the mouth or the nose. Epidemiological research in the Pakistani districts found that most patients came from neighborhoods in the city of Hyderabad, where sewage lines were compromised and leaking into the soil and the water. This, in combination with poor health infrastructure and an overpopulated urban habitat, created an environment where typhoid can become incredibly widespread. Samples of this drug-resistant typhoid strain were isolated and brought to researchers in Pakistani universities, as well as universities around the world, including the United Kingdom and Vietnam. Through the course of this international research effort, they found that the drug-resistant strain had recently mutated. It had recently integrated a plasmid from another bacteria, and this gave it the ability to resist yet another antibacterial drug. A plasmid is a small circular loop of DNA, and through a process called lateral or horizontal gene transfer, these single-celled organisms can share bits and pieces of their DNA with each other. It makes classifying bacteria into distinct lineages incredibly difficult, and it makes bacteria as a whole capable of tremendously rapid evolution. What we see here is that the typhoid strain was given a plasmid that encoded a resistance to the drug ceftriaxone, which means that there's really only one more remaining affordable antibiotic, which is azithromycin. Dr. Elizabeth Clem is an infectious disease geneticist at the Wellcome Sanger Institute in the United Kingdom, and she worked on this drug-resistant typhoid strain. Dr. Clem said, and I quote, "There are multiple worst-case scenarios. One is that this strain spreads to other regions through migration, but the other is that it pops up elsewhere on its own. Plasmids with drug resistance are everywhere." Unquote. When discussing the threat posed by a drug-resistant typhoid strain, Dr. Clem said, and I quote, "Once we aren't able to treat this effectively, we're going back to the pre-antibiotic era. That would mean a lot of fatalities in our future." Unquote. In case you're not quite aware of the scale and the magnitude of the death caused by typhoid in the pre-antibiotic era, think of it this way. Today, if you have a normal typhoid strain and you get it treated, the chances that this is going to kill you are like 1%. It's pretty low. But this is a difference from the pre-antibiotic era when there wasn't any drugs that could treat typhoid. And in those days, the mortality rate was 25%. So 1 in 4 people who got infected were probably going to die. So Dr. Clem is right. If there ever comes a time where we have no functional antibiotics to fight off typhoid, well, we might be seeing a lot of fatalities. That's pretty scary. In response to the outbreak, authorities and health officials in Hyderabad have started a campaign to inoculate up to 250,000 children with a newly approved typhoid conjugate vaccine. Additionally, they're spreading public awareness by encouraging positive hygiene habits like washing your hands and properly cooking food. Hopefully, their efforts can stall the spread of this particular strain of typhoid, and hopefully no similar strains will appear elsewhere in the world, although I'm not holding my breath. Antibiotic-induced natural selection perpetuates only those bacterial lineages that are strong enough to resist our drugs, so it's really only a matter of time before we start seeing more of this.